Welcome to the April 28th, 2020 episode of Reactive Consciousness, our in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And we have another wonderful show here for you folks. We have a bunch of news that happened, not all positive, but some interesting, for sure. But first up, did you hear about this Nintendo hack that went on?
Possibly. When somebody says something like hack, it's like there's a million of those. I'm not 100% sure.
So this one was actually a pretty major one. So apparently what had happened is somewhere between Friday night and Saturday night, or Saturday morning, a bunch of hackers attempted to utilize people's Nintendo accounts that had like saved payment data to their account in order to buy like the Fortnite bucks that could be used to be resold on like the black market.
Okay. Yeah, no, I do not think I heard about this.
So yeah, apparently what had happened is a bunch of people they gained access to people's accounts via the like My Nintendo page on Nintendo's website.
Yeah.
And and apparently a bunch of people had their accounts used to buy like the Fortnite bucks. So apparently somebody had gained access to mine. But luckily they didn't buy anything. So they probably hit a roadblock somewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was that about? You logged on one day and you're like, oh, that was weird. I guess I'd better get two-step verification or something.
Well, no, they must have. There must have been something that blocked them, like they didn't know my birth date or something in order to verify the use of the account. Or they couldn't use the PayPal saved information, which I had PayPal linked to my account, not like a credit card. So they might have gotten derailed by PayPal. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have that for my PS4, or well, my Sony in general PayPal.
Sure.
I've never used a credit card for Sony payments.
Sure. So, what I ended up doing was I changed my password, which everybody should do at this point, because they must have gained access to some sort of like good information on passwords.
Yeah.
And definitely add two-step verification.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a long time ago on the podcast, but I certainly did that after my Sony problem, because that was a real nuisance.
Yeah, I think there was there was like a FIFA scam going around a little while back. I think that was what it was related to. But it's Fortnite apparently is like the big thing right now. So luckily I didn't have any problems, but Nintendo has acknowledged the breach, and they are helping out in refunding. So okay. They like, all credit to them. They are handling it well, from what I understand, but it's just sucks. Yeah, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
And this next one is something from our pal Dracologist that he broke to you. Would you like to expound upon it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have like intimate detail on it,
sure.
But basically the source engine, like, the stuff that Valve uses, like Team Fortress 2 and stuff like that. There was a
the major thing is Counter-Strike.
Yeah, and I remember like when I got Half-Life 2, it was like Half-Life 1 source, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
all the Half-Life games use it, but like
there you go.
Counter-Strike and TF2 are like the most widely played games that use it.
Yeah, but like the code was leaked, and like I guess that could potentially be like disastrous for something like, like you said, Valve makes most or all of its games on Source Engine at this point. Or I don't know about, are they still doing it at this point?
Well, anything that's a first-person shooter, for sure.
Fair enough. Apparently it was a bit of an older version of the Source Engine code, so like it's bad, but it could have been worse, but that's still like a major deal. Like, I mean, I know that Valve itself just gave away the ability to make those movies, like the program
Yeah.
for that, but Source Engine's a whole other thing because that's how they make games.
Well, the major fear here is that like programs like Cheat Engine could take advantage of known flaws in the programming and vulnerabilities and that are documented within the source code
Yeah.
in order for people to start rampantly cheating, and especially in two games that are heavily involved in esports like TF2 and
Yeah.
CS:GO. CS:GO especially is a very competitive, popular game. I think it's the most widely played game on the internet at any given time, just because of its ubiquitous nature and how long it's been around. I think it's even it's up there with Fortnite. Let's just put it that way.
You know, I'm curious. I mean, it's 2020, so it's a little different now, but I'm wondering if StarCraft 1 is still way up there.
I doubt that. I think StarCraft 2 is higher
Like
than
took over.
StarCraft 1 at this point. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, for a time there, like Diablo 2 was still holding on, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But no, I think Counter Strike has been at the top of the plays of people playing it all at once.
I had a
For a
thought
very
though.
long
Could
time.
you imagine if like Bethesda's code, it's not source, but like if Bethesda's code was leaked and then the cheat engine deals with it and like I don't know, fucking fixes it. If we're gonna cheat, we need to have a game first.
You're talking about like the Fallout games and
Fallout
the
and Elder Scrolls don't
games.
fucking
Yeah.
work until the fans come in.
Yeah. No, we're not that lucky.
I mean, like it's funny because if you go on like forums, everybody loves Skyrim to death, but every single one of those people also says that like you play with mods or not at all.
Well, that's less so starting with Fallout 3. So like Oblivion, absolutely, you want to play with mods, but like Skyrim, it's not a requirement to play with mods. It's one of those things,
Mm.
But anyway, moving on from that, I just wanted to get like the bummer news out of the way. Apparently, Capcom Unity, which is the fan interaction website for Capcom, so that's their forums and where people talk about
Yeah.
like Street Fighter stuff primarily. Apparently, they're going through they've announced a gigantic purge on May 6th that will no longer support user pages and user-related content, which is a huge disappointment.
Yeah, that's rough.
Because there are all kinds of guides and even just like arcade stick info. Like there's all kinds of stuff that the Capcom community has posted over the years that are like ubiquitous resources that are still being used even if they aren't being updated. And that also goes for like all fan art and all that other kinds of stuff that was included in those pages. So a lot of people's like stuff, even though they've been there for a long time and may not have been updated, will have like valuable, fan content deleted, which is a really big bummer. Makes me think like, like server space is cheap. Like Capcom's a gigantic company. They're also a very successful one. They're not exactly hurting right now. Makes me wonder why.
Yeah, that is bizarre.
Or at least maybe, maybe stop a like any new content from being put up there, but archive it in some which way. But apparently they're just leaving it up for the fans, which is kind of shitty. They should have some kind of major celebration of that content because there's really good stuff that people have made.
Yeah, especially considering Capcom's love of fan service in their games, like shouting out themselves all the time. Like like all their little winks, you'd think they'd be particularly sensitive toward the fans.
Yeah, and one thing that they're shouting out as a particular shame, Silicon Era reported on this. A particular note is the Mega Man Legends 3 dev room community, which of course Mega Man Legends 3 never ended up being released.
Yeah.
But that's where all of the feedback from the beta was kept, and also has like ideas and stuff that that fans. Contributed. So there, basically, that's like all of the content that exists for Mega Man Legends 3 is there, and that will be deleted. So it's
time to start archiving, really copying, and pasting.
Well, ever since this has come out, there's been a fan community uprising, in order to get it on the Wayback Machine, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it just sucks. It's just one of those things. It shouldn't be up to archivists and crazy people, and crazy people in the best way. Because I, as crazy as I am and meticulous as I am, I can never be one of those people that like archives stuff like en masse and takes hours to do that kind of thing. My hats are off. My hat's off to those people because like they have some kind of patience that I just never will. And also like the ability to foresee that this what content will be valuable, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it sucks. Maybe if you're interested in this kind of thing, maybe seek out like a best of kind of pages, see if anybody has that kind of thing already set up, because I'm sure people are banding together in order to come up with a reading list, or at least a bunch of curated links at least to the really good stuff. So coming off of that, we're going to start talking about some good stuff here, thankfully.
Well, if we're front-loading with bad stuff, we have one more bad thing to mention.
Go for it, please.
With Doom Eternal.
Oh, yes.
The game continues to be great, but there was an issue with its soundtrack. I think if you pre-order the game or something, you could get the soundtrack, but otherwise it's not available for sale. But that's okay. It was announced that it would be in, like, a few weeks or something. So don't worry, you people. It'll be out on iTunes and I forgot what, like other platforms. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But the problem is that the guy who composed it, what's his name? Mick Gordon, I think?
Yeah, that sounds right.
So apparently I don't know if I want to say the devs, but the company asked him like if he could have that soundtrack ready, and he was like, yeah, I think I can. Like, at least what I think happened was that like he could, but it would take a few months to like mix it right or something. And they were like, well, we'll get somebody else. So the person who did the mixing apparently did not do a good job, and this left a bad taste in Mick Gordon's mouth, number one, because they did a bad job, but more importantly, so I guess the true number one, but in order I'm listing it, number two, they just fucked him over and got somebody else, so he just walked away from the company. So, like, that's fucked. Like, I would say he burned a bridge, but really the company is the one that burned him.
Yeah, especially considering that, like, I believe he is also one of the people that did work on Doom 2016, and that is one of the best metal
I was
soundtracks.
Looking up. Yeah, Dracologist was talking to me about this. He was like, "Oh man, we got some real bangers on Doom 2016," and he named some tracks. And I looked them up, and I did notice it was like Mick Gordon's. I think it was Mick Gordon's YouTube page. Like, yeah, they had those tracks. So yeah, definitely it was him.
Yeah. So this guy had the brilliant idea, just to give you an idea of like his style and his reverence for the source material.
Yeah.
He used a chainsaw as an actual instrument. So he recorded a chainsaw and had like and modulated it so it was playing different notes. And basically using a running chainsaw as like an instrument, which is
not to mention, speaking of reverence to the source material, I definitely noticed at least one, probably more honestly, but I remember distinctly one callback that used a little bit of a composition from a classic Doom track, and also one of the tracks is named Rip and Tear. Do you know what that's a nod to?
The Doom comic book.
Yeah, the shitty comic book where he's just like, Rip and Tear! Now I'm radioactive! That can't be good! And like dumbass lines like that.
Well, they use Rip and Tear as a like a major theme of the in the series now.
Of course. But that is a meme. It's like, what were they thinking?
yeah. They even say it at the beginning of Doom Eternal, which I have started.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's like when Capcom gave a shout out to that stupid Mega Man art from the original NES game in the West.
This isn't much.
To be fair to that artist, he literally had one day to do it. It's not like, oh, what a bad art. Like, what are you gonna do? But like, it came out looking so bad.
Oh, by the way, this is like not even a spoiler. Like, it's just kind of funny. It's just like they decided to show his face again. Like show his the Doom Marine's face or the Doom Slayer's face.
I mean, whatever. We've seen it in most of the Doom games.
Well, I was just gonna say, in Doom 2016, he just has his helmet on, but in the new one, they just straight up show his face in it. Surprise! It's the old Doom face, like just in 3D.
Yeah, you really had. I mean, unless they went with a third face, you really only had two options: Classic Doom, where it's on the HUD, and Doom 3, where they make a point, like, look, this is who you are. You know,
it's just kind of funny.
Yeah,
because like in 2016, they have you.
Well, yeah, in 2016, you're like the Slayer. You're like a force of nature. You have no face. You are the monster.
Yeah, well, they add a lot more lore in Eternal, which is pretty great. But this is a really big shame because like the music in 2016 and Eternal is fan-freaking-tastic. And he even the composer was even saying that like you can tell which like you can noticeably hear which tracks were mixed by him and which ones weren't.
Oh wow,
it's a big shame. Yeah, it's a really big shame. He said the depth is very much lacking in the mixing of the other ones. Yeah, it sucks. So basically, they like a large portion of the tracks are basically like demo tracks.
Yeah. So basically, the company got what they paid for, and they also fucked over the quality employee.
Yeah, and like this is the kind of soundtrack that you would want on vinyl. It's that good, and it's a fucking shame that they're they just wouldn't play ball with them. You know what I mean?
And this is like one of their most anticipated like top tier games. Like, how are you going to skimp on quality for something like this?
Especially after a few other big high profile botches, you would think.
Yeah, and well, not only that, like we have the botches, but like the big names, like Fallout 76 is not Fallout 5. When they release Fallout 5, it's going to be a big deal. When they release Elder Scrolls 6, like the numbered one, it's going to be a big deal. Like, they're not going to fuck those up. So what are they doing with, like, I mean, not Doom the game, to be fair, but still, the soundtrack.
Yeah. What a shame. I hope it all works out eventually. If it's unlikely. Moving on from that, apparently the Trials of Mana remake is out, which is pretty cool. This is, of course, Seiken Densetsu 3, which was for a very long time. This is the sequel to Secret of Mana. Had never made it to the United States officially until the Secret of Mana collection, or the Collection of Mana collection, came out on systems last year. They did like a really cool like translation of the original game and made it available to English speakers around the world. And they remade the game just like they remade the first two games. There was Adventures of Mana and Secret of Mana. They were both remade, and kind of to middling acclaim. Like, some people still prefer the original games. Well, Trials of Mana is by all accounts supposedly a better remake than the other two. Okay. It's not perfect, but apparently pretty fun. So like, if you are a big Mana fan, it is not a waste of your time. Apparently, like some of the major detractions on it, major criticisms on it rather, are that it feels too much like the original product and
Okay.
doesn't have enough, improvements to make it easier.
So it's like arguably almost more of a remaster than a remake.
I mean, it's 3D. It has 8-way movement.
Okay. Okay.
There are some niceties, but the argument is being made that there aren't enough.
Okay.
That's the general consensus. But it's not a bad remake, and apparently a better effort than the previous two. So, moving on from that, there is a bunch of announcements that Hamster made regarding the Arcade Archive series, which I've always been a fan of, and I try to give a little bit of shout out to every single week.
Yeah,
just
one
because
of these particularly stands out to me.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff here this week. So, last week I forgot to mention this because we just had a lot to talk about, but a game called Plus Alpha was released on Switch, which I believe is a Data East game, and it is one of the very first cute-em-ups. Along with Twinbee, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so,
like Fantasy Zone.
yeah, but this game has a lot less love, and I don't think it has really any major console ports before this. So it is like a huge deal to people who remember it. Apparently, Japanese Twitter was very excited for Plus
Nice.
Alpha. So it is not related to EX Plus Alpha, Street Fighter EX Plus Alpha, so don't think of that. But it's a lot of fun. Apparently, your ship can morph, and it's a good time. I ended up picking it up, and it's a good game. I actually like it better than the original Twinbee. And then a Nichibisu classic. That's another obscure company. They're mostly known for making Crazy Climber.
Okay.
If you recognize Crazy Climber at all.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, I think we talked about this last week, but Crazy Climber is when you're just a guy climbing a building and you have to dodge windows or people are dropping stuff like potted plants on your head. It's just a climbing game, dodge the obstacles.
Yeah, and like their idea was copied by a bunch of other games that used like Spider-Man and stuff like that for the
and we already said like that one level
Atari.
in Bart's Nightmare, Lollipop Chainsaw alluded to it, etc. We talked about this, yeah.
Yeah, and Nichibisu was also mentioned during our coverage of April Fool's Day because they were the makers of the Force games that Platinum had referenced. Oh
yeah, you were saying like Soul Force and Luna
Soul
Force
and yeah, exactly.
Soul Force was like the joke title.
Yeah, exactly. It was like Tetra Force and I forget the other
Speaking
one.
of those weird games, didn't you say that company had also made Blackbird?
No, Blackbird was made by Onion Games, which is a successor company to the company that makes Chula.
That's why
back
you brought
in the
that
day.
up. Because I was going to mention Limited Run Games had a pre-order for that might still be going.
Yeah, and in fact, that is an insanely well-regarded shmup that it plays sort of like Fantasy Zone, but has a heavy-duty story associated with it, which is kind of funny when you think about it. But apparently, it's like a really well-told story, and it's a great game. It was one of the best shmups of last year, so definitely pick that up. And it was also very popular amongst that crowd. It sold a lot better than probably anticipated, which is great. But what I was going to say is Nichibisu and Hamster released Tube Panic this week on Switch, which apparently is the first ever arcade game with a 3D rotation effect.
What does that mean? Like it's 2D, then it goes whoa, and it like flips?
It has a similar effect to like Mode 7, like sprite rotation.
Okay.
3D rotation. So it looks like you're in a tube, kind of like maybe the bonus levels of Earthworm Jim. maybe.
Oh, okay. Or kind of like Sonic 2's bonus levels. That's more of a half pipe, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but like you can actually rotate around and like the tube
Oh,
rotates
okay.
with you.
So kind of like a 3D version and a non-vector version of like Tempest.
Exactly. I was
Okay.
actually going to
Okay.
say that, and the tube rotates with you when you press the button when you press left and
Okay.
right.
Okay.
So very cool looking game that really doesn't have many ports or anything at all, and it's a fun game. But on top of all that, like they announced a bunch of other games. So Data East games have been recently uh, having releases by the Arcade Archives. They had previously released under a label called like Johnny Turbo's Arcade on Switch. I've talked
Why
about
does
them a
that name
couple
sound
times.
familiar?
Johnny Turbo was
Was
the
he the
spokesperson for the
TurboGrafx guy?
TurboGrafx. Yeah,
He had like a one or two issues of like a comic book. They were
exactly.
really hyping this guy, and it just didn't happen.
Well, apparently he was like a real person.
Yeah,
And
like it
he's
was like a
trying to
self.
like
Wasn't it like a self insert
insert.
comic?
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
And so he you can follow him on Twitter. He's kind of a weird guy, but
Oh really?
he
Oh,
he.
is he?
He's also like a playable character in like Blade Strangers, like that
That's
Nicalis like
amazing.
fighting game. I think he's in Gem, the Gem game as well, like the puzzle fighter like game that they Nicalis released as well.
Oh, I don't know about
Um,
that one.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, it appears that either he only had access to some Data East games or lost them because Hamster has plans to release a whole bunch of them, and there's some really good ones here. So, first one, this was like the major game he had that was missing from the Johnny Turbo line, which was Burger Time. Burger Time is probably the most recognizable Data East title, like bar
Yeah,
none. I can't think of a single Data East game other than maybe Karnov, and
I was gonna say Elevator Action.
that is a Taito game. So the
Oh,
I would actually say Burger Time is the most recognizable Data East game. So Burger Time was noticeably missing. He had the sequel, Super Burger Time, but not like the original Burger Time, which is the game that everybody would really want to play. So that's really interesting. Also, like I'm kind of rooting for Hamster here because like they make really solid emulations. The Johnny Turbo releases were okay, but they weren't like spot on and didn't have like as much care as the Hamster releases here. So
okay.
they also are planning Burnin' Rubber, which is I forget what Burnin' Rubber is. I think it's a racing game. I think that would make sense.
You know what? I'm gonna redeem myself. I mean, Burger Time is more recognizable, but people are at least aware of the "Are you bad enough?" like the bad dudes. No, I don't even know
Yeah,
how many people know how that game actually plays, but like I've heard of bad dudes.
yeah. Everybody's heard of Bad Dudes.
I'm bad.
Sly Spy is another big Data East game. RoboCop is another big uh, Data East game. But I don't think any of them are as big as Burger Time in
Yeah,
terms
Burger
of.
Time is hands down.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, burning rubber. Yeah, yeah. So this is like an overhead. Oh, Bump and Jump. So Bump and Jump was a pretty popular game on the NES, and it was a popular arcade game. So this is a good game, one of their best. In fact, Bump and Jump's a lot of fun. This is like an overhead view where you kind of you shoot, you jump on other cars in order to attack them, which is
Oh,
pretty fun.
so it's exactly like Burnout Revenge.
Exactly.
I actually am not really accustomed to seeing games where you jump on other cars to attack them, though. I remember seeing vertical takedowns in Burnout Revenge, and I couldn't believe it. This is the coolest.
Yeah, yeah. Let me see here. There's also so Super Real Darwin was one of his releases, but it he only had this was the sequel to Darwin 4078. So they are releasing the original game, which is a shmup where like it reacts to your playstyle,
Okay.
and kind of has like an AI to it. Like has like that's why they call it Darwin. It kind of like evolves as you're going.
So is it
Um,
actually like play style, or is it like Garega, where if you kill stuff, it gets harder?
it's not that brutal, but it's kind of like the beginnings of that kind of
Okay.
mentality. Let's just put it that way. Trio the Punch, which
Yeah, I
that
can't
has
believe that.
never had a console release
Well, no,
or
no,
a
it
release
has.
anywhere.
It has, but in Japan, it was PS2.
Oh, okay. So
I think it was part of
it was
some.
probably a hamster game back
Yeah,
then.
no, I think you're right. I think it
Yeah.
was part of some collection. Like, you wouldn't go to the store and buy Trio the Punch. It was one of those, like, I forget what it's called for PS2, but like a Sega Ages kind of thing. It was like, here's some PS2 stuff, you know?
No, Hamster started out with with single releases on PS2, budget releases. One of them was
Really?
like the Haunted Castle.
Oh,
Um,
that was on PS2
Trio
by
the Punch is
itself?
one of them as well. Renegade was one of them. Like Kunio-kun. There's like they had their own releases that were like about 15 to $20.
Oh, no, here we go, though. But I was right about Trio the Punch. It said it was released as part of the Oratachi
Yep,
Gensan's Zoko, so like, We Are the Game Center Race, a
yep.
series which ported arcade games from the 80s and 90s to the PS2.
Yeah,
So there
so
you go.
that's the Hamster. That was the original Hamster label.
Yeah, and it's kind of like Genesis Golden Axe versus Arcade Golden Axe. You can tell there's a downgrade, but it's still Trio the Punch.
So yeah, Tree of the Punch is a treat. It
It's something.
it
Lucky
is
cha cha cha.
basically best way I could describe it is kind of like WarioWare, but also a beat 'em up. It's like really
I know what you
bizarre.
mean, but yeah, it's not a bunch of mini games. It is a beat 'em up, but each level is different in some way. It's like Mischief Makers. It's a platformer, but every level has its own gimmick.
Yeah, like one of them you can be just like walking down the road and like just like you would in any other beat 'em up. But it turns out like what you actually have to do is beat up the moon, which is looks like it's part of the background, but it
Yeah, or
isn't.
like a Monty Python foot stomps on you,
Yes,
and now you're small and have to fight things. It's like, what?
it's very
It's almost
bizarre
like
and
Metal
also
Slug in
has
that
like
regard.
all kinds of like funny stuff going on in it. So,
He has a lot of
um,
nonsensical. Oh, and they do the hyper realistic face when you power up because it looks goofy. You're making like a stupid face.
yeah, and like the three characters that you play as are really weird.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know whether this one in particular will get a US release because there's no English version of this game.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I've seen like a fan translation because I've definitely read Lucky Cha 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 and stuff like that, but like, I forgot if that was in the Japanese version or not, actually.
it probably was, but like
All right. Well,
the conditions or the hints of the conditions in order to beat each level are in Japanese.
yeah.
So that would require a major
Just watch a
like
speedrun on
translation.
GDQ. That's as good as it's gonna get because the game actually looks kind of frustrating to play.
It's hilarious to watch though.
Yes, it is.
It's
Very.
really funny.
You know what the best part of the GDQ runs, by the way, were? When you play as the guy with the baseball cap, I don't know these people's names.
Yeah.
Like
Why would you?
Santos, because they kept shouting him out.
Oh jeez.
But when he beats a level, he like flips, like his sprite flips back and forth a bunch of times, and he does like this like ha kind of pose, like this just amusing pose, and everyone in the audience just in GDQ, everybody in the audience just knew to do that whenever you would complete a level. They would just silently like everybody pose behind the runner. It was the greatest thing.
That's funny, but I hope it does get like a North American release or an Europe release, and even if it just comes as its original form, because like I just want to kind of have it because
Yeah,
kinda,
it's weird.
it's a piece of history and
Yeah.
also it's really bizarre.
Yeah, it is.
And apparently a couple other games, Trigun Gemini Wing, and also a standalone a la carte version of Gradius in case you don't have it from the collection.
But just for clarification, Trigon with a Gon. It's not,
not
the
Trigon.
90s anime series.
Yeah.
It's Raven's father in Teen Titans instead.
These are 2 shmups by them as well. So apparently some juicy stuff coming out from Data East. I'm excited because I've been really especially wanting Burger Time because that's a classic.
The only way on the Switch anyway, but the last time I was aware of it being sold was as part of the Data East collection on Wii, I think.
Yeah, there are different versions. There are all kinds of weird remakes and sequels out, but the original OG Burger Time probably hasn't been released on console since what you're talking about, that Wii collection. I think if I'm thinking right, Data East's library is fractured. A
lot of their properties just literally went up for bid, or for sale at least.
Yeah, half of it is owned by one company and the other half is owned by another. So that might be what's going on here.
Yeah, I remember I've seen jokes and references to it, Tales of Games was saying we really want the rights to I forgot what it was called. Just one of the games, whatever.
Probably Boogie Wings or something.
It wasn't that. I would remember it if I heard it, but it wasn't Boogie Wings.
Boogie Wings is the game that everybody really wants.
Wasn't it some truck game? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know. I don't fucking know.
But I also remember Aaron on the Game Grumps at the time was saying if I had the money for it, I would love to buy the rights to Atomic Runner so that
Chelnov is awesome.
Yeah, but he was saying I would love to be able to make a fan game, Atomic Runner 2, but it would literally be the official Atomic Runner 2 if I own the rights. That'd be so cool.
Yeah. So what he's referring to is I think the company does one company doesn't have some of the most recognizable ones, but the other one does. The recognizable titles like Karnov are probably with one company, and there hasn't been an arcade release of Karnov in a very long time. There Chelnov, which is also known as Atomic Runner, which is what we're talking about, is kind of a semi-sequel sort of spin-off thing. And I actually really love that game, but I actually don't care about the arcade release because the Genesis release is a lot better than the arcade. It's a full-fledged remake, remastering. It's way better than the original version of the game. So anyways, just wanted to put those out there because Data East is really fascinating and they don't get a whole lot of love. Taito's owned by Square Enix, so Taito games will be reprinted until the end of time. Let's just put it that way. Konami
I can't
games
wait for Growl 1.5 HD remaster.
Don't mess with my heart, man. Growl is the shit. But anyway, Taito games are awesome. Taito has plenty of love. But Data East is a company that is very interesting and very weird, and they don't have a whole lot of love. So this is really good. Moving on from that, apparently there's some kind of weird Hello Kitty Steins Gate crossover. Did you see this?
Well, I know that there was a romantic, more comedy-themed game. I don't know if I'm thinking the Hello Kitty, but, Steins Gate has definitely gone into, goofy territory before. Mm-hmm. But Hello Kitty, I don't know about this.
So, apparently, this is from Silicon Era. I'm just going to read this. A Hello Kitty Steins Gate crossover is upon us. Sanria's most famous cat will be... She's not a cat. She's a cat-like girl. I know that from watching the documentary on Hello Kitty. Because she owns a cat. Will be...
It's like Goofy owning a dog. Wait a minute.
Yeah, Goofy, and he's a dog... DAWG, and Pluto is a dog, DOG. I'm not even making that up. Goofy's original name is Dippy Dog with DAWG.
Oh no.
But anyway, Sanrio's most famous cat will be diving into the game's world in the chance encounter of the Goldrich Party visual novel crossover. This is the sixth announcement out of a planned 10 projects that will happen during Steingate's 10th anniversary. So apparently, she will encounter all of the lab members.
That is weird.
Encounter. Yeah, and there's some... you should click on this. There's some interesting art here, because she's definitely in the realistic-ish world of Steins Gate. And
yeah, but she's just like
bizarre.
2D drawing, just like, hey, guys.
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
I approve this.
Yeah, she's drawn just like she would normally be drawn in her own show, and she's just like in the wrong art. It's so bizarre.
I like it. There was also a science adventure, another announcement that was a lot more, I guess, how would you say it? It's a lot more exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you've been talking about this thing coming. It's coming for months.
Yeah. So, Robotics Notes Elite, which is the remake of the Robotics Notes game, which is the third entry in the science adventure series.
Chaos Head, Stein. I mean, the Chaos Head had Chaos Child, but like the Chaos stuff, the Steins Gate stuff, and Robotic Notes.
Yeah, Robotic Notes was the third pillar that we never got in America in any form.
We still need Chaos Head.
Yeah, that's true.
We have Chaos Child.
Yeah, I think the anime of Chaos Head was just released to North American audiences, thankfully. So you can have it at some point.
Step. It's a step. Although we did get Steins Gate before, like the game before we got the anime. It's just that it was like via Jast, and if you missed it, you missed it. Well, I mean, you get it digitally, I guess, but nobody like talked about it.
Yeah. Well, so Robotics Notes never even had like a fan translation. At least like Chaos Head had a or Chaos Child.
No, Chaos Head got a fan translation. Chaos Child was just released locally.
Okay, Chaos Head is the first one. I'm sorry.
Yes,
but anyway, Robotics Notes had never had any English form whatsoever. So this is on par with the Steins Gate Elite release, where they will combine footage from the Robotics Notes anime in order to help tell the story. The Steins Gate Elite was apparently like a really good version to play Steins Gate of, so I trust that this will be very good as well.
Well, you know what I also like is that's two elites. Like, does that imply that maybe they'll come back around and do a Chaos Elite? I mean, the thing is, we already got like console Chaos Child. Yeah. So I don't know, but it'd be cool if they did a Chaos Head Elite.
Chaos Head Elite, that would be pretty neat.
That'd be awesome.
That game in particular is the only one out of them all that has never had any remake of any kind, or re-release of any kind. It's never even been ported to anything, I don't think.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I think
it was,
maybe
it was
original.
Like, I don't know, like Xbox or something? Or am I thinking Steins Gate?
But what's cool is that it also includes Dash along with it, which is its recently released sequel in Japan. So these are both coming to America bundled together.
Oh no, you know what? Chaos Head was ported to fucking everything, just like not in America.
Oh, okay. Well,
like Windows, Xbox 360, PS3, PSP, Vita, iOS, Android, like everything.
We just never got it.
Well,
but anyway, we're getting both Robotics Notes games at once, bundled together for one price on October 13th.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of even Steins Gate Elite. Like, if you got it on Switch, it came with that little 8-bit style dating sim, and if you got the PS4 Steam version, it came with the weird title like Lithograph Phenome or whatever the hell that was. So Steins Gate also came with another thing.
Well, this is the full-fledged sequel. Like in Japan, this was like sold on its own.
Yeah, that's pretty rad.
Robotics Notes Dash was a full-fledged sequel. So this is 2 full games. It's not even like a side game or anything.
Yeah, and it's being sold for like, I think it's like $60. It's like the pre-order anyway. It's for like, that's the cost of like number one game, and number 2, the fact that this is like Elite. It's like, oh, it's the the super version.
Souped
It's
up
got regular
version.
retail price.
Yeah, and like this will have like full of voice acting and everything. It's not a cheap release. Like people in Japan were paying like $80 a piece for these. Just to give you an idea when they
I mean,
came
shit in
out.
Japan is stupid expensive.
Yeah, but like I'm just giving you the value proposition here is very big.
Yeah.
Considering the science adventure game, visual novels are top tier.
Yeah, they're considered
Adventure
the best.
novels
Yeah.
or visual novels. They are really well received, like top tier made ones. There's barely anything that's better than them. So I'm excited because it's both games all at once. You don't have to wait for another one. The Switch physical release is up for pre-order on Amazon, I believe.
So is PS4.
And the PS4 version, yeah. It's like a day one edition with a bunch of like pins, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I can believe that. Like the Steins Gate, like the old Steins Gate PC version, came with little knickknacks like that. I actually forgot if Elite did, but I could believe it. Like the little metal Opa, because that was like a thing they talked about in the first couple episodes.
If this is anything like the previous releases in the series, I will probably end up picking up the Steam versions because the Steam versions tend to be included in the bundles, like the Science Adventure bundles. So
That's
therefore,
a good point, yeah.
even upon release, you can get some sort of discount on them. So I would hope that that's what's happening here again as well. But I was just super excited about this because it's basically the last pieces of the puzzle. I don't think there are.
Yeah, it completes the trio.
Yeah, I don't think there are any other major
title,
science
semicolon,
adventure
title.
games. Yeah, I think
there's
all
Chaos
of them.
Head, Chaos Child, Steins Gate 0, and like Elite is just Steins Gate again. And then those little weird mini games that come with it, and then Robotics notes.
There is one other weird spin-off that is like not considered as major. It's called like Occult 9. I don't know if you ever heard of that one, but
no.
It's apparently started off as a light novel, so yeah, just like a regular novel, and then
Sure.
they made an anime and a game out of it. But apparently it's terrible, and also it is probably the most fan servicey thing that I've ever seen in my life. It's like very like shameless about it.
Senran Kagura
No, it's
pinball
worse.
thing.
It's worse.
Are you fucking like?
Just look at the cover of the game.
All right, what was the name of the game again?
Occult 9 or Occultic 9.
Is it Occult semicolon 9?
Yeah. Just I want to hear your reaction.
Okay, images. Okay, that's got to be the picture. So let's click it. Can I get a bigger image? I don't know. I see a bunch of girls on the cover, but like, there's nothing special.
Oh, maybe I need to find it for you.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything wildly. Unless it's the PS4 thing.
Occultic 9.
Okay, is that the one where like it's like the upward shot where the girl's way too close to the camera?
She has the biggest breasts of any anime
I do see
I've
that, but
life.
this other like title picture is just normal, but that one's pretty in your face.
Yeah, this is known to be like the most embarrassing thing you could buy on your PS4.
The Galgun games?
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, like, I was like, oh, Cheesecake game, let's take a look, but I gotta admit, it was pretty embarrassing playing that.
Well, the version that that was sold came with a pair of panties to clean your screen with. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like a screen cleaner. That was pretty funny.
But yeah, Occultic 9 is apparently terrible as well. It's not like good, so like you don't want it. It's not like a good game. So yeah, but I just wanted to throw this out there that like we're gonna have all of the major good games of this associative thing.
And consider how far visual novels have come in America. They're still not like the most sought out genre. But, like, in the 2000s or whatever, like, you'd be crazy to consider buying one of those. You couldn't find them. Like, Ever 17 was available in extreme obscurity. But now, we got the remake of fucking, Silver Case. Like we got
Yeah,
we got the
seriously.
Nonary games, which people love. We've got the Danganronpa games, which even if they're not visual novel people, like they like those.
We even have Shibuya Scramble.
We got
Like,
Shibuya Scramble 10 years later. We
I mean, we
got
always had Snatcher, but yeah.
well, yeah, but that was limited print.
We have all of the official Ace Attorney games except for the
Sherlock Holmes one.
The Sherlock Holmes. There's
and
two of them.
There was something else. Oh yeah,
And
we got that Zenki Zero. That's like a weird, obscure one.
Yeah, Zenki Zero. Yeah, we got Raging Loop recently, which is apparently a really good one.
A Kemco game, which is good and not just shovelware, apparently. Because Kemco Limited Run does a lot of Kemco stuff, and they all look just like shovelware. But apparently, Raging Loop is like legit.
Yeah, no, we have like the best visual novels. I mean,
like the idea that you could go to a GameStop
is a really good one as well.
Clannad's coming out. Like the idea that you could go to GameStop and there's a bunch of visual novels on the shelf. Like that is wild. Like we've really come a long way.
Oh yeah. It's a good time to be alive for this kind of gaming. Also, I guess I should put this out there with this. A Sailor Moon visual novel for PC Engine was just fan translated. It was
I
like
did hear about that.
A Super CD-ROM game, so like it has voice acting and everything.
Huh.
So it's apparently a pretty good one. Curb Your Expectations. I'm sure it's mostly like an adaptation of certain parts of the anime, but it's cool to have that sort of thing, especially for beloved anime, with the original voice actors and all that stuff. Let me see here. Moving on, I've talked about the Psikyo shmups that have been being ported to the Switch in the past. This is the company that made the Strikers 1945 games, and also the I played them at Com Bravo, if you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And also they made the Sengoku shmups as well. So apparently they just released in America officially in collection form. They were put out by NAS as the Psikyo collections, Bravo and Alpha. They are now apparently being announced to be released on Steam, a la carte, which is pretty cool. I'm hoping that this they end up releasing all of them, because I bought these games as they were coming out a la carte on the Switch, and as soon as they were picked up by NIS, the remaining like three games were not released a la carte. And that means I would have to buy the entire collections of all the games in order to get the last 3 games.
Yeah, been in that situation before.
That sucks. There was no indication that would have happened, so it wasn't like it was like a bad purchase on my end. It's just like they screwed everybody over who had already been buying these games. So apparently they're releasing these games a la carte on Steam, starting with Strikers 1945. I already have that one, but
it's still cool they're doing it.
I'm hoping that they release the final 3 games a la carte on Steam as well. And there is apparently some complaints about like controller lag, or movement speed and that kind of thing on the Switch version. So hopefully the Steam versions have a fix to that. Moving on from that, Brook, the famous company for making fantastic controller converters, and
they're very prolific.
Yeah, like every single thing that they make is like top notch.
Just pick a console, pick a modern console. There's probably an adapter.
Yeah, they basically allow you to use like any off the shelf joystick with any system that you could want that's a modern system. They've been doing some retro converters as well recently, which is great. They also made the retro board that we had for the interview with Jason's Customs about. So this is really cool. They announced like I think it was Arcade Shock or one of the other big joystick companies, or Focus Attack. It's one of the two. They said that they only had like a couple of the Dreamcast, PS3, PS4 to Dreamcast converters left, and those are like some of the best ones they have because it even has like VMU emulation.
Oh,
Like
that's insane.
it doesn't have like a screen, but it will function as a memory card on top of being a controller converter.
Fair enough. It's still very good.
So you can use a modern, USB joystick with your Dreamcast, and people were like freaking out because they were like, "Oh man, they're never gonna make these ever again. This really sucks. We better snatch them all up." So they ended up selling out. But Brook then, like about a week or two later, announced that they are releasing a new converter that will convert PS3 and PS4 controllers to Saturn and Dreamcast.
That's freaking nuts.
So yeah, I think this is the first time a USB controller converter is being made for the Saturn, which is a big deal, considering that all of the best like games for Saturn, like the really sought after games for Saturn, are arcade ports or like 2D games.
Yeah, it's easy to forget because the Saturn really just kind of came and went in the West, but like, the Neo Geo is, I mean, literally you use the arcade games in it, and it's largely fighting games. The Turbo Graphics is largely shooting games, but the Saturn, it has a bunch of original stuff, but it has a lot of arcade ports.
Yeah, like all the really notable games are probably arcade ports.
Like Golden Axe the Duel.
Yeah. But,
which apparently is arcade perfect.
What's cool about this is like you could use your modern joysticks, which are way better than the ones that were released for the system back then. Also, the Saturn's one of those game systems that has like a multi-tap that has like a ton of controllers that you can attach to it for like things like Bomberman.
Yes, 6. It's crazy.
It's actually, what was it, up to 10 players for Bomberman?
Bomberman was up to 10
Bomberman?
players, yeah, but a multi-tap would do 6 controllers, so you would need 2 multi-taps. I think the only game, or maybe there's 2 or something, that require not require, but uses all 12 controllers.
Duke Nukem. I think it's one of them. Yeah, Duke Nukem 3D has a hidden minigame in it.
Oh, the minigame, you got me. Yeah, but no, I was thinking, I forgot what sport. It was like soccer or hockey or something.
Game, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, like a game that is openly intended to do that. I forgot. Yeah, the Duke Nukem and like I think it was a Quake or Quake 2 had like mini games that were like sequels of each other.
Yeah, they're like some kind of like a game that was sort of like Worms, almost like.
Yeah. It's like Yakuza 3 and Yakuza 4 have Buxilios and then Buxilios 2. By the way, can I just say I love how it's not overly frequent, but like we keep having excuses to bring up like fucking Buxilios, like anybody knows what that is. Like Yakuza's more popular than it used to be, but still, who knows what the fuck Buxilios is?
Some people buy Yakuza just for Buxilios.
Well, they need to buy Judgment for Kamuro of the Dead. Have you ever wanted to play House of the Dead, except in the universe of Yakuza Dead Souls? Well, boy, do I have some good news for you.
But, this is really good news, especially for people that want extra controllers or want to use a modern fighting stick on it, especially like things like the Comba Obsidian are like fantastic joysticks, so you would definitely want to use that on the Saturn or Dreamcast. Dreamcast also has a ton of really great arcade conversions as well. So these are the perfect things.
Was Dynamite Cop an arcade conversion?
Yes.
Because it really felt like an arcade game. Like I know Dynamite Deca was for sure. Dynamite Cop wasn't 100%.
Yeah, it just wasn't like well distributed in America.
I still love the voice of the bad guy in that game. Like he doesn't look like he sounds. Isn't that safe over here? What? And the animation is goofy as hell. I think on purpose.
Stupid. It's almost. I think the second game is basically a parody of the first game.
The second game's ending is hysterical. It does the double dragon thing. Now fight each other for no reason.
Well, they do that in Die Hard Arcade as well.
Oh, they do.
Dynamite Deca, yeah.
I love it. Like you're just running down a hallway. Quick time event. You just fucking clothesline a guy, and he's done. He's done.
Well, moving on from that, Code Mystics has announced they've done this before, but they're doing a rollback update for the Steam version of Last Blade 2. So they're adding online capabilities and online matchmaking to
cool.
Last Blade 2, which is a great, fantastic SNK classic. So they've been doing this for quite a few titles that used to be published by .emu. But now SNK is utilizing Code Mystics, and apparently like all their versions are like way better.
Last Blade is one of those games, like, 'cause I was really unfamiliar with SNK stuff back in the day, and I still kind of largely am, but like my first experience with a lot of SNK properties was Capcom versus SNK 2.
Sure.
Like, I didn't know who Geese was at the time. It's like, who's this weird mini boss? But like, they would do weird stuff, like have one character from a game. Like, you gotta have like 3 Street Fighter characters from Capcom, like from Street Fighter. But like, they would have Ryo and Toto, for example, from Art of Fighting. Like, by the way, weird that you could play as fucking Toto, like that guy. But like, then they would have Kyosuke and only Kyosuke from Rival Schools. He's not even the main character.
Yeah.
And they would have Hibiki from Last Blade. I'm like, what's Last Blade? It's so bizarre.
So Last Blade is basically a series that's kind of similar to Samurai Showdown,
yeah, it's a sword fighting game.
But it's even more serious than Samurai Showdown in terms of like every hit is very brutal. Like it takes a huge chunk out of your life in Last Blade.
In a lot of those old SNK games, you really didn't have much of a life bar. But yeah, Samurai Showdown, boy, like that game is all about punishment. It's like real sword fighting. Like, either you just kill the guy or he swings and misses and you counter for stupid damage.
Yeah, Last Blade 2 is even more, like, I think there's a lot of, like, one-hit kills and that kind of thing in Last Blade 2,
yeah.
if I'm not
I remember
mistaken.
playing against my friend in Samurai Showdown, like, 4 or something in the arcade. I don't know what the hell I did. I button mashed. But I just, like, cut him in half at the waist. It was like a Guilty Gear one-hit kill. It was like, what the hell? It was amazing.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the samurai games have that kind of thing because it's realistic to get killed by one sword stab. I just didn't expect it in
the damn 90s arcade game. I was like, whoa!
Yep.
There's that one guy in Samurai Showdown 5, not special specifically, where he, like, I forget, like, I think he, like, throws you in the air and, like, cuts you in half or something, and then just, like, opens up his arms and the blood just rains down on him because he's not wearing a shirt. I'm like, wow, really? It's like freaking brutal.
Yeah, really awesome stuff. But Last Blade 2 is like one of the like a lot of people will say is one of the best fighting games that SNK ever made. So it's really good that it's being treated well. Moving on from that, Super Mario Maker 2 is getting its last major update. And it's a banger. It's a really cool function. Did you see this?
I heard that it got an update, but I didn't know what it was.
So they are adding World Maker to it. So essentially you can make your own Mario World-esque map with different sections.
Nuts. People have probably been waiting for that for like 30 years. Like, I know people homebrew, but the fact that you can do it officially without jumping through hoops, that's crazy.
So to put this into context, if you don't know what we're talking about, essentially you can make your own Mario game, essentially from start to finish. Like
that's true, yeah, because
like
each little blip on the world map is a level, and the whole point of Mario Maker is making your levels. So I mean, this leaves. You've seen how incredibly creative some people can be with the Mario Maker levels. There are like auto scrollers. There are things that have like storytelling implemented. So if you do a whole game, people are really gonna put some notable stuff on there. Like, I mean, even Igarashi made a Mario Maker level called Castlevania, and it was literally Castlevania's level 1, but like where the platforms were and everything, and just enemy placement. Like, you could make Mario Castlevania if you wanted to.
Yeah, like literally you can have entire sections of the game that were so you can have like a forest, easy introduction world.
Yeah.
4 or 5 levels that are like that, and then move on to a nice theme for another 4 or 5 levels, and then keep moving,
You could
just
do a
like a
Link
real
level, a
Mario game
Samus
would be.
level. Like
Yeah.
you could go insane with this.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. Like I am really looking forward to seeing people's entire Mario games that they're coming up with that
Yeah.
you can sink hours into.
This is gonna do gangbusters, man. This is gonna be unbelievable.
It's really cool. And more than that, I kind of just want to see like the footage of people playing this kind of stuff.
Well,
Because it's
yeah,
really cool.
like you couldn't pay me to actually bother making those levels, but
I would never make it. I would play them though.
Yeah,
and watch them.
I would love to see what people come up with.
So on top of that, not only do they have that, which is a big deal, like a really big deal. Yeah, it says each world can contain up to 5 levels, and 8 of the worlds themselves can be combined.
That is nuts.
So you can create up to a 40-level Mario game.
Because in Super Mario World, there were more than 5 levels. I think there were like 8 or something per map. But like, whatever. Nobody's gonna say no to only making 40 fucking levels. That's absolutely crazy. Oh,
40 is very ambitious.
Can you go even weirder with it? Because I don't know what this entails. Can you do that thing where there's like a Hammer Brother patrolling on the world map, and if you bump into him, you gotta fight him?
I don't know, but I know that you can you can set different themes. Like you can make like ghost house things and
like
stuff
desert
like that.
level or desert world or whatever. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure of the specifics and logistics, but
honestly, if I had to guess, I would say no, but that's not a big deal.
Yeah. Moving on from that, they also are including a bunch of new enemies and a bunch of new power-ups, including the frog suit from Mario Brothers 3, which they didn't have before.
Yeah, that was kind of conspicuously missing. They put in the fucking Karibo shoe, which was like in what, like 1 level in the entire game or something, maybe 2.
Yeah, exactly. The power balloon from Super Mario World, where you turn like Mario into a fat floating guy.
Oh yeah.
And a mushroom that turns you into your version of the Super Mario Brothers 2 versions of your characters.
Like American Super Mario Brothers 2?
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
wow.
Doki Doki Panic.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So,
did you know that game used to be Doki Doki Panic? And,
yeah, but... Yeah, exactly. Paku. Yeah, this is really, really cool stuff. I don't know what else you could really want from a Mario Maker game. I honestly can't think of anything, because they pretty much covered it, unless they're adding brand new stuff that.
Well, you know what they could do? They can Streets of Rage remake it. You know how they finally changed the name from Garcia to Garcia? Like, that was very conspicuously a problem for years. They could call the Goombas Karibos, because isn't that what they're actually called? Like, they weirdly got the Karibo shoe correctly, but not Goombas. Like, Kuribo. Like, it almost sounds like if you say it fast. Like, it's just a weird little thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Moving on from that, I know there was a new commercial for Sega Shiro, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, apparently he showed off like
his dad's like training him.
Yeah. Apparently, like some girl asks him hey, is that a Switch? And he's like, no, it's Sega, and he holds up a Game Gear.
It's just so funny because, like, I mean, Sega continues to be cool to this day, but like, their last system was the fucking Dreamcast. Like their consoles have been dead for a very long time. Like, oh, is that Sega? Like. Or no, is that a Switch? No, it's Sega, like from like the early 2000s, like at the most recent.
So yeah, this is a play-by-play. Girl asks, "Are those sunglasses?" Like, no, it's Sega, and he's wearing like the Sega 3D glasses from the Master System.
Come on,
Girl
come
3,
on.
Is that a backpack? No, it's Sega, and it's like a Sega Saturn on his back.
Oh, it should have been the Dreamcast, like in Typing of the Dead.
Typing of the Dead,
Dreamcasts.
Yeah. What is that you're wearing? And
it's Sega.
It's
like
really
what
awesome.
It's like what James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd, did like years ago, where he put on where he equipped the Super Scope, he wore the Power Glove, he's like decking himself out in stupid Nintendo accessories, and now Sega's doing it like in an official capacity.
Yeah. So apparently he's training his son to keep Sega out of bankruptcy, which is even funny. Is
Sega
funny in
already made that
concept.
video game.
Yeah, but like Sega's okay with talking about even the concept of them going into bankruptcy, which is hilarious.
They made a game of it. We talked about it before. Sega Gaga.
Yeah, but like no other company that I know of is poking fun at that currently. You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Currently, I was gonna say the only other thing I can think about things would be Arrested Development, where they just like appeal to the viewer to please watch the show.
No,
the third
HBO
season.
wouldn't want us.
Yeah, the Home Builders Organization? No way. Also, well, actually, yeah, if we're doing that, then Futurama did that when they came back. They announced all these networks. They're like, nope. But there was also one of the openings to Freakazoid. I don't remember what the lyrics were, but it was like... It was basically like, it was something like, please watch the show or we'll be unemployed, and it had like the animators in the opening credits like dressed in like a barrel, you know, that old school poverty depiction. It's like, really? It was pretty goofy.
Yeah. So anyway, definitely check out those commercials. There are fan translations of them all, I think. It's good stuff. It definitely is. I think other than I just have a couple little things.
I hope that guy becomes the new Kamen Rider. That would be full circle.
That would be sweet. So the Virtua-On Tanstick, the super expensive Virtua-On controller, that was Japan only. That was basically crowdfunded.
Yeah, it's exorbitantly expensive because it weighs 1 million pounds because it's an arcade stick.
It is $500.
Yeah, there we go.
You can apparently like just straight up buy one instead of doing the crowdfunding thing.
Okay.
But they are like basically made to order because of what they are.
Well, it's like what the PSIO used to be.
Yeah. So you can get one. They're just expensive as shit. I really badly want one.
Like, even the ones that came out like officially, like the older ones, those are still expensive.
Not like $500 though.
Not $500 because they're old at this point, but like they've always been, not that expensive, but quite expensive.
Apparently these use the same exact parts that were in like the arcade cabinet, and like they're all metal sweet. And really.
Because it looks so cool when you play them. You got 2 sticks, you can move the mech around. It's awesome.
Lotus, I know what I would really want you to band together with all of my groomsmen if I ever have a wedding. At this point,
and then I can watch as the divorce pages are passed out like immediately. That was your big gift, an arcade stick for a game you'll play once. You fuck.
Look, it's for 3 games. First of all, it's a trio.
Touché. You got me there. I take it all back.
You could argue that it's one game because they're all lumped together, but
yeah, the Virtua-On collection.
Yeah, exactly. Also, it looks like there is somebody working on a CPU upgrade board for the original Xbox. Their name is Chimeric Systems. Apparently, they're working with Voltar. Which is pretty cool. I don't know what that'll help you do. Maybe overclock some games, or possibly include like the extra RAM for.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only upgrade I've ever heard about was if
Chiro
you buy
games.
Those extra RAM chips for like 25 cents a piece, and then pay the actual money to have somebody solder them in for you.
Yeah. So you can play Virtual Cop 3.
Yes, for real. Like, my 2 big dreams were to play Metal Wolf Chaos, which has now just been localized, so fuck it. And it's better. You know, the Xbox version had lag when you did your super move. And Virtua Cop 3. And I kind of would like to play Rent-A-Hero as well. But Virtua Cop 3.
Yep. Well, Virtual Cop 3 never got a home release, so...
Yeah, that's the whole thing, yeah. Metal Wolf Chaos did, but, Oh, no, I didn't need the RAM upgrade for Metal Wolf Chaos, sorry. No. I just wanted,
Rent-A-Hero is also playable, no problem.
But the fan translation, though?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. You need the RAM upgrade for Virtua Cop 3, and then I think it was for some other games I didn't really have passion for.
Yeah, other games released on that arcade board, like Virtua Tennis, 3, I think.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. No, they're good games. It's just like they're like Virtua Cop 3 is like the major one because, that's a really good game, and unfortunately it got no love.
1 and 2 were on Saturn, and 2 was also on Dreamcast as part of a collection.
Yeah.
And that was it.
And lastly here, I'm just throwing this out there just because it's kind of cool. Yuzo Koshiro, who got his start on Ys 2, that was the first game he ever made music for. He released a song, a new arrangement of the theme song
That's cool.
of Ys 2 for its 32nd anniversary. So I just thought I would throw it out there.
Oh, and I just remember, just because I'm being neurotic, Virtua Cop was also ported to PC, but it was called Virtua Squad.
Yeah, that was weird. I remember
and
that.
That's not even like a European Hero Turtles thing. It's like America just decided, like, for this console or for this port, we're just gonna call it something different. It's like Run Like Hell versus RLH, even though they're both next to each other on the fucking store shelves. Like, who do you think you're fooling?
Yep. All right. Well, I think we really exhausted a lot of time here. But do you have any other things you wanted to go over before we wrap things up for this week, Lotus?
No, I think that's all I can think of for now.
Okay. Well, that is the show for this week.
Actually, you know what? I lied. I just wanted to ruin your outro. I just wanted to mention there's just an interesting looking game that was kickstarted and it was recently funded. I think it was like a week ago or something, called Sea of Stars. I mean, there's 1,000 games that like pay homage to like older style games. This is no exception. This looks like a Chrono Trigger kind of style game, and everyone's doing those. But I just wanted to bring this one up just because it looks high quality and it destroyed its goal. But also they got, in addition to other composers, they got Yasunori Mitsuda on board. So
neat.
He's the guy who did most of the compositions for Chrono Cross.
Yeah,
and I think I forgot who did the majority of Chrono Trigger. I forgot if it was Uematsu or Mitsuda, but they both worked on it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was Uematsu and Mitsuda came in and like helped a little bit.
Yeah.
But the point is, he is a brilliant composer, and having him be a composer on a Chrono Trigger style game makes it feel all the more like authentic.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of like Nightcry. It's not a Clock Tower game because of rights issues, I guess, but it's made by the original guy, so it's basically a Clock Tower game.
Yeah. Well, that I think should wrap things up unless you have another interruption.
No, I'm good.
Okay. You sure?
I think so.
Okay. That is the show for this week.
Oh, one more thing.
Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. Helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. Also, you can catch us on Thursday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, where we'll talk about our favorite podcasters and YouTubers. And that is the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on pretty much everything.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, which, by the way, that's coming up real soon, getting in on exclusive live streams, I'm currently doing Echo Night for public consumption. But for patrons, I've recently started Suikoden. At long last. Selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play. Like I said, coming up real soon, The Letter on PC.
Which letter?
The Letter, obviously.
Will there be 25 other ones after this?
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. Fakafan already made that joke. But yeah, so selecting upcoming games for Let's Play, or getting conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
Okay, well, we will catch everybody on Thursday for another episode of CoreCon. Catch you then.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.